So, we're still at the rapture, right? Okay, so at least I'm not talking about myself, except that I myself am going up in the rapture. So the rapture of the church happens. The Antichrist then is revealed. And it's believed that at this time he will sign, this is Daniel 9:27, by force, this 7-year peace agreement. And for the first 3.5, this is when Israel will be allowed to rebuild their temple. The reason why we know that is because Daniel 9:27 says at the midpoint, at the 3.5 years, he will set himself up in the temple and demand to be worshiped as God. That's when Israel will realize this is not their Messiah, because he will commit an abomination that causes desolation. Some believe it will be the sacrificing of an unclean animal, which the Jews know their true Messiah would never do. You have to understand that Antichrist doesn't just mean against Christ, it can mean also in the place of Christ. So they will embrace and accept this false Christ, this Antichrist in place of Christ as their Messiah. And then at the 3.5 year mark, they will realize that this is not their Messiah. They will flee. They will not go back. This is Matthew 24. They will flee. Pray that your flight is not on the Sabbath. Why? Because transportation shuts down on Shabbat in Israel. Someone has cleverly quipped that if you wanted to film a movie on the rapture, go to Israel on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, because there's no cars on the street. Literally no cars on the street. So you could just, the rapture happened. That's why there's nobody here, because they were, anyway, I digress again. So they realize then this is not their Messiah. They flee to what many believe, present company included, modern day Jordan, the rock city of Petra. I was there. By the way, when we started in the book of Job, I mentioned that it's believed by some that that's actually where Job lived, was in this rock city. It is so massive and it is so protected. And so that's where God will protect Israel for the last 3.5 years from the Antichrist, who will seek to destroy them once and for all. And for the last 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation, he will protect Israel. Then at the end of the 7-year tribulation, the whole house of Israel will be saved. They will call upon the one whom they have pierced. And then we come back with Christ as his bride by his side. One has said it this way: in the rapture of the church, Jesus comes for us. At the second coming, Jesus comes with us, 10,000s by his side as his bride. That's the second coming. Now, some have argued, well, the rapture means that that's the second coming, and the second coming now is the third coming. No. Jesus has not come to the earth. He takes us up out of the earth. And it's been a while, but there are some fascinating, and I mean fascinating, similarities and typology between the Jewish bridal and wedding customs and the pre-tribulation rapture. Let me just give you a couple of examples. So in ancient Jewish weddings, the groom, when he would be engaged to the wife, to his bride, would say to her, I go to prepare a place for you. And that place that he's going to prepare for her during the engagement period is a bridal chamber. And in Israel today, you'll find these little room additions, these bridal chambers in the parent's house, in the father's house. That's a bridal chamber. And then he promises her he'll come back for her, so that where he is, there she will be also. Now watch this. They don't know the day or the hour of the wedding, which made it really hard when it came to wedding invitations, because you would invite people, I don't know when it's going to be, but I just have to have my wedding dress ready and oil in my lamp. And just be ready, because he comes as a thief in the night. And he snatches his bride away. And the best man, as it were, at the time that the Father says, okay, now's the time, the best man blows the shofar, the trumpet. And then the bridegroom comes and he snatches his bride away as a thief in the night, takes her to his bridal chamber where they celebrate and consummate the marriage for, get this, 7 days, not 3.5, 7, not 6, not 8, 7. And at the end of the 7 days, they come out from the bridal chamber and they have this huge wedding feast. It's the wedding feast of the Lamb. After the 7, the number of completion. That's like 2 of about 30 of these similarities. Maybe I need to do that as well again sometime soon. It is, to me, one of the reasons I believe that the rapture has to happen before the 7-year tribulation. One more, can I? Don't look at your watches. We're almost done. You just looked at your watches, didn't you, after I said that? So one more. The uniformity in the typology in Scripture is very compelling, right? The rapture's in the Old Testament. Starting with in the book of Genesis with Joseph, he takes a Gentile bride before the 7-year famine. She's not heard of again after during the 7-year famine. A Gentile bride. Fast forward to, I'm going to miss one or two in here. So let's fast forward to, well, let's just go to Daniel. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are thrown into the 7 times hotter fiery furnace, right? Where's Daniel? He is prior taken up to a high position and as such is not there. Daniel is a type of the church being taken up, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are a type of Israel that go into the 7-year tribulation / 7 times hotter fiery furnace. And they're saved in the middle of the 3.5-year mark of, if you please, that 7 times hotter fiery furnace. Who's in there with them? It's a Christophany, a.k.a. a pre-Bethlehem appearance of Jesus the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus is in that fiery furnace, and not a hair on their head was singed. They were saved in the midst of that 7 times hotter fiery furnace, just like Israel will be saved in the midst of that 7-year fiery hot tribulation. There was one other one, Enoch, going back even further. Enoch walked with God and then was no more. You want to know why? Because God took him. God raptured him, and he was no more. And oh, by the way, that was pre-flood. Noah goes into the flood and is saved in the midst of the flood. Noah and his family are a picture of a type of Israel going into the tribulation. Enoch, a type of the church. Here's how I like to say it, okay? Joseph's Gentile bride was pre-famine. Enoch, pre-flood. Daniel, pre-furnace. Just like we're pre-tribulation. It has, you completely destroy the type. And ask Moses about destroying the type. What happened to him? You remember? When he struck the rock twice? When God said on the second time, you don't strike the rock is only struck once. The rock was a type of Jesus Christ who would only be crucified and struck once. So what does Moses do? Instead of speaking to the rock, he strikes the rock the second time. He ruins the typology. Don't think for a second that the typology is not serious in the eyes of God. He ruined the type, and it cost him the promised land for that reason. Anyway, I went completely off script. So, we're almost done. So now, the second coming, and then is the millennium, where we rule and reign with Christ seated on the throne. Okay? Now, what about the tribulation saints? What about those who don't accept the mark of the Antichrist during the 7-year tribulation? They're called tribulation saints. Are they saved? Yes. Ask John. He asks about, who are these? You know. They're the ones that have been beheaded. And this is during the 7-year tribulation. But here's the thing. They're not the bride. In the millennium, they're serving at the throne, whereas we, as the bride who go up in the rapture, are seated on the throne. There's a delineation between those and us. Those that go up in the rapture, we're the bride of Christ. Those that are left behind, do they still have a chance? It's not going to be easy. But if they accept Jesus Christ and reject the mark of the Antichrist, they're going to be in heaven. And they're going to, the millennium, this is crazy. Not a lot of people talk about the millennium. I'm going to talk about the millennium just for a minute, okay? All right. The millennium is it's the kingdom age, a 1,000-year period of time where the earth will be, for 1,000 years, like it was before Adam and Eve sinned. You know where Satan's going to be during this 1,000 years? Oh, he's going to be chained in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Now watch this. This gets really interesting. This might jam some gears, and if it does, I apologize. So there are going to be those that are going to somehow live outside of the Antichrist system. They're neither going to accept the mark of the Antichrist, nor are they going to accept Jesus Christ. And it's appointed that a man wants to die. Somehow they're going to survive. And they're going to enter into the millennium, and they will have the bodies that Adam and Eve had. And they will be prolific. And they will give birth to children. And those children will live to be, upwards of 1,000 years of age, just like it was with Adam and Eve. Now, at the end of the did that jam some gears? I'm looking at some of you looking at me and go, what? Well, anyway, again, we'll talk about this maybe some other time. But at the end of the 1,000 years, Satan is loose, and there's this one final battle, which is really no battle at all, because Jesus just, crushes Satan. He's thrown into the lake of fire where he spends all eternity. And then that is, in fact, in Revelation, we have a beautiful outline of this, all of this. That begins eternity future, the new heavens and the new earth. And that's where the new Jerusalem is going to be. And we're going to be in a whole new realm. Of course, at the rapture, we get our glorified bodies. I can't wait just for that. And so, but this is where we're going to be and dwell for all eternity. Is such a fascinating study. Let me just give you a real quick outline in Revelation. The whole book of Revelation, beautifully in a chronological order. In fact, John in verse 3 of chapter 1 is told to write that which he has seen, that which is now, and that which will take place hereafter, yet future. So you have a beautiful outline in Revelation, the whole book, past, present, and future. Past is chapter 1. Jesus Christ crucified, resurrected, and glorified. And John was the eyewitness. Write that which you have seen. That's what chapter 1 is. Past. Present, chapters 2 and 3. The 7 letters to the church, the 7 churches in Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. We are in the very last moment of church history, chapters 2 and 3. And by the way, the 7th church is the church of Laodicea. The lukewarm church that Jesus says, I wish you were either hot or cold, but as such, I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth. This is the church that he's on the outside knocking to come back in to sup with them and them with him. Well, so chapters 2 and 3 is present. Chapter 4, verse 1 and on through chapter 22 at the rest of the book is all future. And you know what chapter 4, verse 1 says? John is told to come up hither at the sound of the trumpet. That is the rapture. And you know why? Because in chapters 1, 2, and 3, the word church is mentioned 19 times. 19 times. In chapters 1, past, and chapters 2 and 3, present. From chapter 4, verse 1 on, you do not find the word church. And especially when you get to chapter 6 through 19, because that's the 7-year tribulation. From chapter 6 through 19, it's all about the 7-year tribulation. The word church is not once found in chapters 6 through 19. Why? Because the church is not in the tribulation. Now, chapter 20, that's the millennium, the kingdom age. Chapters 21 and 22, the New Jerusalem, eternity future, the new heavens, and the new earth. And